Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 39. And this week we want to talk about Wi-Fi. Not the security of Wi-Fi, but really just you go to your friend's house, you want to get on their Wi-Fi, or friends come to your house, they want to get on your Wi-Fi. Is this a good idea? This is a bad idea? How should we go about it? So again, we bring Tom in, and Tom's going to tell us how Wi-Fi is terrible.
Hey, I suggest everyone carries around a bundle of Ethernet cables and a micro USB to Ethernet port that they can plug into their smartphone and then wire up their smartphone for internet access at all points.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, we've talked about how Wi-Fi is insecure when you can capture traffic and everything else, but basically, you're going to your friend's house and you literally just want to save your phone from dying of either poor reception, or you bought the 1 gig of data when you were told to not buy the 1 gig of data, and now everywhere you go, can I get Wi-Fi? Can I get Wi-Fi? Can I get Wi-Fi?
Oh, all kinds of good stuff. So, of course, we've covered the basics before. If you've got a wireless network, make sure you use WPA2. Just use it, turn it on, set a good password. It really keeps things safe, not only for you, but for everyone else who uses your network. People who are driving by or sitting outside your house with that giant antenna that I believe I showed in a previous episode won't be able to capture your traffic.
See, I can't afford that. I just get my Pringles can, and I go to, what is it? Is it PringlesAntenna.com, something like that?
Oh, I forget what the official site is, but yeah, the Cantenna is a fantastic invention.
Oh, before we continue, we got to do some follow-up. We completely forgot because we generally don't. And I guess from last week, Argonova was asking about I forgot what he was asking about, but it was
Tor with VPN.
Tor with VPN, which one first? And he wanted to thank us for covering it. So we're not actually useless. We actually do a good show, at least according to one person. So
that's one. We have one. We're on the board.
Yeah, so we have someone who thanked us. And we have a new question from Austin Walsworth. And he writes, what about wiping Android phones with recovery? Has that been tested compared to the Android factory reset? Or does the reset from the menu trigger the one from recovery?
I'm going to take this out of order. On the last part, does the reset from the menu trigger the one with recovery? To be honest, I'm not sure. I need to do more research on that, get back to you with an answer, because really I'm not sure. And if what we're hearing is true, that device manufacturers can implement the factory reset in different ways, this could be a really, really complicated answer. Now, doing the wipe, the factory reset, inside of your Android recovery screen, which most people really haven't seen. Hardly anyone except people that install custom ROMs or like to root their phone have seen the Android recovery screen. There's a factory reset option in there. It's great. I've used it a lot. But the sheer speed at which that works, I would almost guarantee you, I don't have any proof to back this up, except for anecdotal evidence, and I haven't done the research, but when you hit factory reset, it takes a couple seconds and it says it's done. I would imagine that it's just clearing the partitions and saying, yeah, this is free space, go ahead and use it.
Well, not only that, it's just it's not the SD emulator, so it's not your music and your photos and everything else. It's just the operating system.
So I'd be careful with it. I've seen it clear everything. There are some cases where it leaves things behind. The standard factory reset. So I'll need to do more research on this. This is a way, way bigger topic than we can cover in just feedback. I think we'll probably have to do an episode on it once I get all of my notes together and my head on right about this. Just because we get, I've personally gotten a lot of questions about this, especially recently. And we're both currently talking with people who are trying to either dispose of a phone or sell a phone and want to do so in the most secure way possible. So we've got some work to do.
I mean, again, anecdotally, a friend yesterday said that if you do it, they were doing it through TWRP, it was supposed to be good, and I didn't hear a response back on whether it was or wasn't. And the idea was he was selling his phone, but the person buying it wanted him to leave CyanogenMod on it. So he didn't want to have to go through the whole process of completely factory resetting the phone or doing the encrypted method and then factory resetting it. He just wanted to wipe out his part of the partition and leave it just reflash CyanogenMod back on. So again, we'll do some research and hopefully next week we can come to you with an answer.
Yep.
Okay, so a little bit out of order. So yeah, so we were talking about Wi-Fi, and we're talking about how just put a WPA key on, just make it, and dare I say, don't make if you're going to share this with people, don't make the password all that hard. Am I wrong in saying that?
I always say, and I recently gave a talk on this at a security conference, length is way more important than complexity. So if you don't want to have like uppercase, lowercase, a bunch of symbols thrown in there randomly, make it something like 20 characters. It can even be all lowercase at 20 characters. Just make that password really long. If you want, Google the phrase correct horse battery staple. Again, correct horse battery staple. It'll take you to a comic by XKCD, very famous, and it shows you that long passwords are way better and way harder for computers to crack than short ones, or than short, complex passwords.
And don't use correct horse battery staple as your password.
No, that's a bad idea.
That actually flew to the top of the password cracking list. But the idea is to come up with a phrase that you can tell people or whatever it is, and yeah, don't worry about complexity. Don't make it your address. Don't make it your telephone number, which I've seen a lot of people do. Just make it a phrase. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, and then add a couple characters after that.
I have seen people, especially businesses, use their address for Wi-Fi, for their Wi-Fi password. I actually read a couple stories today of people breaking into various businesses that use their address as their password because it's easy, everyone can remember it, and it's hard to forget, right? It's a bad idea. Don't do that.
Well, there's two topics that I guess we're trying to say at the same time. The first topic is the pure security of it. When someone's on your network, they have full access to your network. So we were talking about the Internet of Things with the thermostats and the toasters and everything else, and that can lead to exploits. But even if you're not even worried about that, which you should be, but if you're not, you just want to prevent someone from the side of the road accessing your internet, even if they just want to check their email. Like, I know I'm a bad guy saying that, but it's checking. If you want to help someone check their email, that's fine. But most likely, if you're not sure if they're going to do anything bad that will link you to it.
Right. So I'm the type of guy. I'm part of the internet age. Sharing is kind of built into my genetics. I love sharing Wi-Fi. I've got a great fast Wi-Fi connection, and to be frank, I'm at work a lot of the time, so why not share it? But you've got to share it in a really secure way. Some access points, and some do it better than others, some do it more secure than others, have a little checkbox for guest mode. You can turn that on. You can either put a password on it or you can leave it wide open. Some of the really nice routers actually allow you to set a speed dial and say, yeah, no, these guys can only get 25% of my internet speed, but make sure my traffic goes through first. Mine gets priority. Really great stuff. I've got a very, complex enterprisey network setup. The way I've done it is I've created a separate network with basically a speed limiter and some quality of service stuff that says these guys can't take up all of my bandwidth, and my bandwidth always goes first, it gets priority, but they can use it. And they can use it however they want, whenever they want. Now, there are some dangers with that, and you do have to be prepared. Just like if you are running a library or you're running a Starbucks, people might do illegal things on your Wi-Fi. And not illegal things like, threaten to kill the president, but illegal things that people usually do, like download movies or music illegally. You could get a letter from your ISP. And it also might be against your terms of service. So be aware.
To share Wi-Fi.
Right.
To share Wi-Fi. And I mean, I guess we all, deep down, like you said, we all do want to share our Wi-Fi. We've all been in that place where we just needed just to connect. On our second episode or our third episode, you're at the airport. Should you connect to free public Wi-Fi? We've all needed that few seconds just to get something done. And we're just so grateful that we're not going to do anything bad. But there are people who go around saying, I want to do this bad thing, but I don't want it to make myself known, so I'm going to drive around until I find an open network. And that's part of the problem. And the other problem that we're talking about is with the complexity of the password is you don't want hackers infiltrating you and doing bad things on your network.
Right. You don't want, even if you want to give people access to your network, even if the security isn't even a concern, think about this. Someone on your network, on your main network with all of your devices, do you have any printers shared? Do you have any folders shared? I mean, this used to be a huge problem in Windows.
The C drivers.
Yeah. Windows Vista and Windows 7 definitely scaled this back. They fixed a lot of things. That's great. But I encounter so many places that have got crazy amounts of folders shared, or their printer is on a network, which is extremely common, without a password on their Wi-Fi. Think about this. Maybe I'm not a super elite hacker, right? Maybe I'm not running around wearing a ski mask, holding a keyboard under my shoulder, right? Maybe I'm just some guy that loves to play pranks on people. Maybe I think it would be hilarious if I just put a picture of my smiling face or maybe an obscene gesture and send it to your printer 500 times in full color, right? I have seen this happen, and, one, it's hilarious, and two, you're probably going to need to buy ink cartridges at some period of time. There's a lot of reasons to lock down your network. That's just one of them.
And it's funny because the person knowing it doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
Like they won't know.
The hackers, they're everywhere. No. Listen, Grandma, you just can't take this router home and plug it in. It actually has to be set up. Which the router manufacturers are getting better about passwords on by default. It's making me happy.
Well, the good part is Verizon, at least on their FiOS service, they put, now they used to be a WP key, now it's a WPA key on the side. And it's this long, annoying hex code. And what I tell people to do is, one, don't change it. The first thing they do is they complain. And I say the second thing to do is, do not change it. Please don't change it. I know you want to change it. I know it's complex. Just leave it. What I'll do is, let's write it down. We'll put on a Post-it note so you can take it off. We can write it digitally so you can send it to somebody. But if you change it, you're going to forget it. That's the first thing. You go to somebody's house with your Wi-Fi password. Oh, I forgot. And that's the worst. It's the most not disheartening. It's just the most obnoxious thing. Go to somebody's house. I don't remember what my Wi-Fi password is. And then you feel bad, or they either have to look for it, or you just can't use the Wi-Fi. And now you're stuck using your 4G service, and all you want to do is check your email and stuff like that.
It happens every Christmas. A really nice, kind of ingenious way to do this is if you change it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, you can write it down on a sticky note. The thing is, don't just hang it up on the fridge. What a family member did for one of their elderly family members, they changed it to something, their Wi-Fi password to something pretty long, pretty complex, hard to remember, but they had a kitchen cabinet, and they put the sticky note on the inside of the cabinet and shut it. And anytime somebody wanted the Wi-Fi password, Grandma just says, hey, it should be where the teacups are. Just open it, and it's right there on the inside of the cabinet. They open it up, type it in on their phone, and they're hooked up. They're secure. You have it written down, and you can remember it. Don't write down any other passwords, please. Your Wi-Fi is pretty important, but if your house gets broken into, you probably have bigger things to worry about than your Wi-Fi password.
Well, you have to remember, Wi-Fi is only, theoretically only not too far of a distance. It's 30 feet.
Right.
So yeah, unless you have
it depends.
your giant antenna. But for the random person on the side of the road, they're going into your driveway, or they're nearby. And if that's the point, and you realize that, then maybe you should not. What's it called? You should be a little more vigilant outside. But
right.
But yeah, that's the most. That's really the main topic I really cared about. You go to somebody's house, and getting on their Wi-Fi is just so terrible. It's just such a painstakingly annoying process. And I think it's because you set it up once, and then you forget it. And then when you have to set up a new device, that's when it starts hurting. Oh, I got an iPad for Christmas. Christmas morning must be a terrible time for a lot of people.
And we're getting to that point where, wireless N has been out for a while. We're starting to see consumer level, pretty high end still, but consumer level wireless AC. That's not wireless power. That's a new Wi-Fi standard. It goes farther. It's faster. It's generally better than wireless N or wireless G or any other wireless that's come before it. So if you go to buy a new router, do some research, look at the features, see if you can, enable that guest network. You can enable it securely. Make sure that, if you want to, you could set a password on it. If you don't want to, make sure you don't have to have the password. One of the big features I'd look for is that, the speed limiter, that speed dial that you can crank down and say, yeah, these guys can only use, 2 megabits down, or they can only use, 10% of my connection. Because that might be really important. If you've got a bunch of kids with iPhones sitting right outside your house watching Netflix and YouTube all at the same time, they could just flood your entire connection. Now you have no internet because all the kids outside are using it. So speed limiting, it's a good thing.
So speed limiting, but I was going to go also with, you may want to put a password on and make it super simple, just as a deterrent. All you want to do is prevent everyone, but you want the people in your house to have access, or if you're in an apartment building, put it on the door, say, hey, you need free access right here.
Yeah, there's definitely nice, convenient ways to share this without making it worldwide public. Up in the lobby of your apartment building. It's probably a great idea. If you want, there is plausible deniability built into this scenario. Let's say maybe you yourself download a lot of movies, and you want that one excuse, and it's probably not going to work multiple times, but you want that one excuse. If your ISP gives you one of those horrible letters that says, we caught you, and that's a strike, and you get 6 of them, and we're shutting off your internet connection. You call them up and you say, hey, I'm sorry, I've got this guest network thing. It must have been someone else. And they'll go, okay, turn off the guest network because you're not allowed to have those, but we'll remove the strike. It gives you a little bit of leeway with stuff like that. Or it can. It's only a defense. It is not a guaranteed scenario.
Well, again, like you said, that happened. I'm surprised that they buy that excuse, frankly. But I guess they've been shot down in court enough times that now they have to. And this is, again, another topic, but Comcast is allowing some sort of on-by-default home internet sharing. They'll give you the router or the stupid box for free if you allow them to share your network. And I guess the good part about that is Comcast is now going to have to say that IPs are not identifiable information, which they never were. But now they really can't go after you.
It depends on how they're routing their network. They might take this home internet connection sharing thing, and it might be VLANed out to a different IP on their switch. We're getting a little bit technical, but it might actually be on a different IP address, on a different part of the network than your home connection. We'll really need to dig in deep when Comcast starts rolling this out en masse and figure out exactly what they're doing. If they're sharing an IP address, I don't know why they would, but if they are, then yeah, tying an IP to a person, even to the ISP, doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense from a network perspective anyway. But now, that's just another hole in Comcast's legal standing that says, hey, it's your IP address, you're responsible for it. Well, no, because you turned on this connection sharing thing.
Well, I read so what I have in my house, and you may want to do this. It's not hard to do. Is I got as a gift a Finera router. If you don't know what Finera is, I think they're Portuguese. Portuguese or Spanish company that wants internet sharing for all. So this was way early on. They built a router with these two guest networks. So in addition to the router I currently had, I got this. So what I did is I split the routers. I plugged literally one router into another, and I made a whole separate routing table, if you want to call it that. And so that's shared, and actually it has two networks. It has the general one, and then I can even share it from there and charge a menial amount of money, which I don't think I do. I think you just get a splash screen and you just have to log in somehow. I don't know how it works. But what I did is, so I separated. So that password, anybody wants to come over, I have that password written down. It's right next to the TV. I have a QR code with it, so you can take a picture of it. I have an NFC tag if you want to scan it. I don't care, because all it's doing is I know they're people coming into my house, so I know who they are. They're siloed from my network. So the only problem is the Chromecast is on the main network, and this is not. So hopefully the new Chromecast
will be fixed here soon.
I'm hoping for that. Or on my Nexus Q, that was the little sad part. On the Nexus Q, I don't think it worked all that well. And so they're separate. I don't feel guilty. They can do whatever they want because I'm standing right. I'm standing right there, or I'm sitting right there. So it's not some random stranger on the side of the road, and I have the password right there. If I don't even have to hide it, they just walk up and they can see it. So the first thing they do, they come in their house and they see this piece of paper. They look at it and say, "Oh, it's the Wi-Fi password. Let me put that in."
Yeah, and it's not too terribly complicated to do it. There's tons and tons of guides all across the internet on taking two or more routers and setting up kind of, if your router won't do a guest network, setting one up yourself with a separate router. And it's not a bad idea. Make sure, above all things, please update your router firmware. It probably doesn't do it automatically. It's very important. There have been router compromises in recent internet history, so make sure you keep that stuff up to date. It is important. It's just as important as your computer.
And I mean, be a nice guy. So what that means is, if you run into this problem, if Grandma has this problem where she can't remember her Wi-Fi password, do what you said or do what I said. Write the password down. Put it someplace that's not open to the public, but for the most part, it's there. And so Grandma but just remind Grandma, or you take control of it. So when someone says, "Where's the Wi-Fi password?" you can say, "Oh, it's behind the cabinet," or it's not that you want it underneath the router. I see that also. But just turn on WPA. And we talked about this on the other episode. If you go to a restaurant that doesn't have it, you may want to tell them, "Hey, I know you want to have open and free internet. Just make a WPA key. Don't use what's that called? 802.11x with the splash screen."
No. 802.11x is actually either user or machine authentication, usually seen in enterprise environments. What you're describing is called a captive portal.
Okay. That is the worst thing for just about everything.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Okay, if you want, I mean, it does nothing unless you're charging someone to use access for it. Just make it locked down, and then let them ask you for the password.
Yeah,
and the password in the cash register. Just put it right in front, so they have to go to you and ask for the Wi-Fi password. You can say, "You understand?"
Or print it on their receipt.
Yeah.
And if you want to, if you want to keep out people like that would just walk into your restaurant and use your Wi-Fi and then not buy anything and leave, change if you want to. You could change that password every day, or you could change it every week. Monday morning, come in, change the Wi-Fi password, make the printers print the new Wi-Fi password, and that way they only have a short period of time. If you change it every day, they've got to buy something at least once a day to get access to your Wi-Fi. Not a bad idea. There are more complicated ways to do this. There are actually ways to print off vouchers onto a receipt and have an external system authorize that code number, and it can get really complex really fast if you want it to. But it doesn't have to be complex. There are really simple, easy ways to do it with a little bit of manual intervention. And one of the reasons we suggest any Wi-Fi password, even if it's written on a chalkboard right there under the menu, is because we don't want people sniffing traffic. We don't want people collecting your data that you're transmitting across an open shared network. It's pretty dangerous. I mean, your bank is using SSL. That would be pretty secure. But with open Wi-Fi, you can do some nasty, horrible things to someone's browsing. Just really awful stuff.
So again, just take the public service. Do yourself a favor. Go up to the person. I don't want to say lady, but the person at the register. See if you can get an owner and say, "Hey, look, I know you have open Wi-Fi. I appreciate it. I really enjoy it. Just put a password. Make it anything. Like you said, make it the address of the store. I mean, just something so you can connect, and it just stops the passerbys. Because you just walk, you see a lock, and you say, "Oh, I'm never going to figure this out. It's not worth my time. It's just a deterrent. I'm just going to walk somewhere else." If you were a hacker and you really, really needed to get on, there are ways. But for the most time, like we said, it's the person who sat down, is at the coffee shop or at the restaurant, and they want to check their email, but they don't want to use data, or their kids have an iPod Touch, and to keep the kids happy, you put it on. They're not doing anything wrong, and they don't want to deal with the hassle. They just want to get on as easy as possible.
Yeah. And it's really that easy.
So take what we said. We got some time, but take what we said. Go home, or not go home, but go back to your router, update your firmware if you haven't, and figure out your guest network strategy, if you want to call it. Just only so you can give yourself peace of mind. You know where the password is. It's separated from your normal traffic, and your friends will be happier you did that.
And let's say you've got only people you really trust. Let's say your friends are the inner circle and you don't mistrust anyone and they can do anything they want to on your Wi-Fi or your network. Let's say they have a piece of malware you don't know about. Let's say that malware is network enabled and can jump into mapped file shares, or you can scan the network and find openings in other Windows machines or Macs or whatever. It's not just malicious activity on the part of your users. It can be malicious activity on the part of software that you aren't even aware of. So be vigilant. Think about it.
And you don't have to tell them this is a guest network. I mean, if you want, you can hide your SSID from the passerbys, so they don't feel like they're second-class citizens. All somebody wants to do is know that their internet's going to work, because spotty coverage is worse than no coverage.
Yeah, and there are two last things I want to bring up. I wouldn't recommend hiding an SSID. It has weird privacy implications that we can bring up later for technical reasons. Also, MAC address filtering doesn't do anything. It is so incredibly useless to anyone. Even, I mean, if you Google how to get around MAC address filtering, you end up with 100 different scripts of just double click this thing, I'll get you right around it. It is so easy to bypass, it's not even funny. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. MAC address filtering, useless. Utterly useless.
There was another one. What was the other one? Oh, hiding SSID. Again, that's useless. It may make you feel better that you don't constantly see 2 or 3 networks, but it doesn't do anything for you.
And it actually hurts you a little bit. If somebody is sniffing the air, they can see a device, even if you're nowhere near your router. Your router is constantly screaming out the name of your network, trying to connect to it. So unless you want your wireless network name, you know, Bob Smith Wi-Fi 1 screamed out all over the place, I wouldn't hide your network.
So, okay, well, take that. We're all now going to run home and fix all these problems, and hopefully next week our friends will be happier. So,
Lots of work to do.
okay, everyone. Until next week, we will see you then.
See you guys.